one speech at each of the predetermined venues today. Each speech must be a minimum of 10 minutes in duration. To mark this duration, a bell will signal the start and end of the speech. In order to beat the previous held record of 21 speeches in 24 hours, Franco will be making 23 speeches in 14 hours. To meet this strict deadline, Franco will have to depart the venue immediately after each speech. Franco and his family sincerely appreciate you attending this speech and your support for this event. His team will need to take a photo of the audience for evidence at the end of the speech. We ask that you please remain where you are after the speech. Each of the speeches are different from one another, but share an overall theme, facing our fears and challenges. This speech has been generously sponsored by Bill Shackleton of Remax Jazz Brokerage in Bowmanville, and also, as a member of the Lions Club of Bowmanville, I'm proud to give Franco a check for $500, which we're donating to this cause as well. Finally, Franco is here to present speech number 3, entitled Change. Please join me in welcoming Franco Stanka.
Sure, thank you.
Let me know when you're ready.
Are you all ready? Are you ready? Sure.
Timer after that, okay?
Okay.
Just a second.
All right. I provided, thank you, I provided some medieval type bells for the volunteers, so that was supposed to be a joke, yeah. Yeah, it's early, yes. Well, you know, I really appreciate everyone coming out. I know it's an early morning, Saturday. Thanks, Bill. And thank you, Robbie, for helping out, you know, throughout the year and helping organize, not organize, but get an audience here for this event. It's been a long time in planning, and I really appreciate everyone's support and being here and watching this 10-minute speech called Change. Someone once said, actually, Socrates, that said, Socrates, that the secret to change is to focus all of your energy not on battling the past, but on building the future. I think it's still pretty relevant today. It definitely applies to me in this event. Some of the past speeches I just talked about in Newcastle was taking the first step. We're at the Bowmanville Rotary, talked about staying in motion. This one's about change. And if I could read my writing, I would go a little faster, but that's okay. It is still early, right? The one message that I could, maybe you could take away from this speech and what I learned in undertaking this event is that change is easy when you have a strong purpose driving it. I'm not a big fan of change. I like things pretty static. I like things the way they are. So for me, change can be a difficult thing. And this event was no exception. I had to change a few things, mainly a mindset to undertake this event. And so I want to share some of the lessons I learned in this event, talking about change and what I had to change. And hopefully there's some things you can take away and apply to your own professional lives, your personal lives, and your work within the community. I want to talk about what changed my mind, what sparked me to do this. I'm sure many of you are wondering that right now. The changes I made to have to undertake this event. And finally, how the event had changed me unexpectedly. the change in my mind. So back in November of 2014, when my father was faced with the prospect of cancer, there was a shift, a change that happened in my mind. I really wanted to do something for my dad. And that had never been the case before. I mean, I lots of things for my dad. But this was different. This was something that I wanted to do for my father. I wanted to support the people that were helping my father out with his battle with cancer for the second time at the time. Secondly, there was changes that I had to make. And one of the things one of the main themes in this event is facing one's fears and facing one's challenges. And I think the hardest part for me was to change my focus from being afraid to really focusing on the purpose of the event. Many times we want to do something for someone else. The first thing you think of are the barriers to doing that. At least that is for me. And those are my own internal barriers, and that's usually the case. And so the change I had to make in my mind was to focus from being fearful of this basic communication with other human beings to really focus on the reasons to why I'm doing this. And that is to support my father and those others battling cancer and the people that are helping them. So focus on the purpose, not the fear. In many ways, the event changed me unexpectedly. Benjamin Franklin once said, when you're finished changing, you're finished. And I think a lot of it had to do for me was allowing change to happen for myself. And it wouldn't have happened if I hadn't, reached out to organizations like yours, because in doing so, it really renewed my faith in a lot of different things. It renewed my faith in the kindness of strangers. It renewed my faith in others when you're facing a unified cause. I mean, it really opened my eyes to that. And as the Lions, change is something that you're all too familiar with. I mean, when you think about it, you create the change in the community. Gandhi said, "Be the change you want to see in the world." I think the Lions demonstrate that. Your club demonstrates that. You've been around for, over 80 years? Over 80 years in the community. And so I'm sure over that time, you've seen changes in the community. You've seen changes in the way that you support the community. And I'm sure you've seen changes within your own organization as well. So you're very familiar with change. For over that time, you have, in a way, been the change. A lot of the changes in the community. And if it wasn't for this event and me reaching out to you, as I mentioned, you made that change in myself, and I thank you for that. Yourself, your group, many organizations like yours have inspired me and contributed to that change in my mind, that perspective. And with your acceptance and enthusiasm, I really appreciate it. So thank you very much for that. Oops. Before I go, and for most of the speeches, what I've been doing is sharing a success story. A story of hope. And the reason for that is that I wanted to tie in a lot of stories, whether they're caregivers or people have faced cancer on their own, and share those stories and tie those into the theme of the event, and tie them into the theme of this particular speech, which is to change. And it's a story about a man named Cam out in Surrey, BC, and by his own accounts, had a killer work schedule. He was one of these high-level executives who's work, and was very successful as a result. And when he turned 48, he had a seizure. And they found a golf ball-sized tumor behind one of his eyes. The prognosis wasn't that great. They said he had a year to live. And even with aggressive treatment, he said, okay, I'll take the treatment so I could spend time this last Christmas with my family. When he said when they removed the tumor, that's when everything changed. Couldn't play sports anymore. Couldn't work. All the things he enjoyed doing. So he had undertaken the treatments. His daughter would attend most of them with him, and he said he'd have these discussions that they'd never really had before with his daughter. He'd laugh. They'd laugh more than they had in the past. They'd cry more than they ever had together. And 9 years later, since he's recovered, he attributes his recovery to his faith and the strength of his family. But he said the tumor changed his life forever. He changed the relationship with his family forever. And he said if it wasn't for that, he wouldn't think that the improvements that he had with his family would have ever happened. The secret to change is to focus all of your energy not on breaking down the past, but on building the future. I want to thank the Lions Club of Bowmanville. Thank you so much for coming here this morning, everyone, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you.
Leanne?